8:14 this morning, September 8th today is International Literacy Day, shining a spotlight on literacy as a basic human right and key to opportunity.
Yeah, this year's theme is promoting literacy in the digital era. And joining us this morning is Dr. Daphne Ntiri, a distinguished service professor at Wayne State University who specializes in literacy and adult education. Dr. Ntiri, we appreciate your time this morning. Let's talk about the day. It's been observed since the 60s. Why is it still an important global reminder today?
Well, thanks. First of all, let me say I'm very honored to speak on International Literacy Day. Recognition of literacy as a human right and a foundation for inclusive, sustainable development. It's something that I have developed over the years at Wayne State University, and we bring in the libraries, the community colleges, the police department, the churches, and we make a lot of noise about understanding what it is to have a fundamental right as literacy, having the chance to read and to write. And I think it's a wonderful thing that you are celebrating this on your channel.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about what Literacy Day is. Of course, you and I, we might think of, picking up and reading a book. That's easily accessible to us, but there are some portions of this world that don't necessarily get access to that. Can you kind of talk about some of the access things that you work on there at Wayne State?
Okay. My career has been dedicated to advancing adult literacy as a tool for empowerment, particularly for underserved populations in both our communities, our urban communities, where you have a lot of vulnerable and disadvantaged populations, and also around the world in the global south. I'm going to give you a little bit of statistics right now. We have, according to poor literacy, over 763 million people who don't have access to the written word, basic literacy skills. We know that in America, there's functional literacy because everybody must go to school and learn the alphabet and read their names. But there are people who don't have any access to reading and writing. And that makes it a serious offense to the world. So it is very important here at Wayne State that I have been able to develop research and community programs that develop cultural, responsive adult literacy curricula that is grounded in the real life needs of adult learners. Literacy, I have to warn you, is more than the ability to read. It is the capacity to engage fully in society. You know what I mean? You're talking about healthcare. We're talking about securing employment. We're talking about using technological and advocating for yourself. These are very, very important issues that we deal with. And in my program right now at Wayne State, I've done a lot. You're talking about somebody who spent over 30 plus years in the area of adult literacy, so I can share all kinds of stories. Because at Wayne State, I have a program called WSU Another Chance. And that program has enrolled over 5,000 students, learners, adults, over the last 16 years. But I tell you, we're able to achieve what the schools have not been able to achieve in a matter of a year or two. Because here comes a student. I'll just give this one example. And I'm focusing right now in our urban setting around Wayne State, in the catchment of the university, where you have a lot of people who, because of a lot of factors, dropped out of school. So we would have students who will come in, and somebody will say, well, I had my GED, or I finished 12th grade and all of that. Well, you know what? The most important thing you have to do right now is to take the test. We have a test called the Test of Adult Basic Education, and they have to take that test. Well, the person who says, I graduated with that, or 11th grade, 10th grade, comes in at 6th grade or 7th grade. Well, this is what the test says. So that means you've got to really come in and put some effort into it so you'll be able to take the GED. And let me tell you something, the GED is not the same as it used to be. The GED is now very advanced and technologically oriented to meet the needs of our current society. So we have these people who come in, the schools have not been able to do all this stuff. And in 1 year at Wayne State, we're able to get that student, we're able to orient that student to take the exam. And we don't have 100% passing, but we do have quite a number of people. Maybe we can get up to like 25 out of the class of maybe 250 or 300 that enrolled to graduate. Now, that's a major achievement when you think there are competing priorities such as work, family, and then also trying to take school. So, I think we have to congratulate our learners for their resilience in terms of competing and taking all, in terms of all the historical setbacks, as we know, the segregation, the poor quality of schools, all these things come into consideration. And I'm continuing right now to see if we can train the teachers, which we have done in the past, to help them sharpen their skills to meet the technological needs of our society. So, in short, that's just one little brief thing. And then I'll move, if you're interested, to learn more about what is happening in the global south, because that's where, when we talk about 763 million people, that's where they are. But we do need to talk about the US too, because,
Yeah.
we have about 44 million people here in the
Yeah.
US who we call, dysfunctional literate people. Some of them have, and many of them are immigrants who come in with no skills at all from the global south. And but we do have our native learners who are also they're short on some of the skills that they should have by now. Take for example healthcare prescriptions. You can't get the prescriptions, you're not going to do well. So poverty is linked to poor literacy skills or low literacy skills, and so is health. So if you're gonna get your prescription for your baby or whatever, that's a real dilemma.
Yeah.
That's real chaos, for the family.
Yeah, and Dr. Ntiri, you're really putting into perspective too, because when you're speaking of all of this, I mean, knowledge really is power. When you are thinking,
Yeah.
and it's a silly saying that we hear oftentimes, but knowledge really is power in a lot of these different scenarios.
It absolutely is. And when we're talking about literacy being a human right as well, unfortunately, there is that discrepancy where there are parts of the world where there really isn't that much literacy. Can you talk about where that discrepancy comes in and why it's so important to be able to address it and hopefully make it into really living up to that standard of being a human right someday?
Very, very important question. I just noted to you that we have 763 million people who don't have access to the written word. And we live today in the technological world where the internet, we can't survive without it. Now, when you think about the third world, and I'm just coming back on a Fulbright scholarship to Namibia, University of Namibia, and interestingly, countries in the southern part of Africa do very well. Namibia has like 92% literacy rate. I can imagine it. 92% literacy rate. And again, we have to think about it. Is it literacy in the metropolitan language like English or French or German? Or is it just literacy with their local languages? And, that's debatable. And that has been an ongoing discussion as to how do you measure literacy. But let's put that aside. Let's talk about the technology part of it. When we work with people in the third world countries, we are all now into computers and they are into their phones. Because even in the United States, a lot of students learn by their phones. They don't have computers at home, they don't have Wi-Fi, but they have their phones. So the phone has transformed many countries in Africa. It is a transformative force, and you can teach with the phone. But if you try to bring in the computers and get students to learn with the computer, this is what happens. This is a real scenario. The thing is that the internet is there, but electricity is a problem. They don't have access to electricity, so they can't continue. You might have it's sporadic. They get it for a little bit, and then the lines go off, and that creates the kind of problem currently for them. However, we continue to work with papers, textbook, literature, and get students to understand. But that's the major discrepancy between here and there. The third world, the global south, they do not have access to the kind of resources that we have here. And a lot of the women, and that literacy is a woman's problem. It's a crisis for women. 53% of the women in third world countries are removed from learning literacy skills. I mean, there has to be some kind of radical change particularly in countries, Muslim countries, where women are not allowed to be exposed to the public or to learn to read and write. It's a crisis.
Yeah.
But we are making a lot of effort, tremendous strength to change that. Because I was in a Fulbright scholar, not only in Namibia, also in Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, where we have a president who's making a lot of progress right now. And I know I went into the villages, working with low-scale entrepreneurship among the women. Most times they're doing cottage industries, basket making, small-scale fishing, agricultural products. And you find that these women, they do really want to learn because they have to do the calculations. How much money did they get? They have to write it down. How much do you get? But they don't know how to do it. And it's a wonderful thing when you can get them to look at the alphabet in a matter of 6 months, a year, and it says, oh, the smile on their face that they've made one big step in their life to achieve this. That's the power of literacy.
Well, Dr. Ntiri, we appreciate it. We do have to leave the conversation there, but this has been really helpful to kind of put into perspective the issues and the discrepancies between literacy here in America versus in other places across the world. Again, we appreciate your time, Dr. Ntiri. Thank you very much.
Okay, I appreciate it too. Thank you.